Welcome to Storyflix. In this video, we will explain Cheese in the Trap. This movie tells a story of an ordinary female university student who fell in love with one of the most popular students in the university. Over time, some facts about the man she likes are revealed. Will she still feel the same towards the person she loves? Let's find out in Cheese in the Trap.
적은 행동을 시작했다.
Cheese in the Trap begins by showing a girl named Hong Seol who is in the library. As she is about to leave with her documents, she accidentally bumps into a young man, causing all the files she was carrying to fall to the floor. However, the young man named Yoo Jung treats her coldly and tells her to be careful, then walks away, ignoring Hong Seol, who has a hard time tidying up her files scattered on the floor. 1 year has passed since that incident, and Hong Seol is reunited with Yoo Jung, who is her senior, when they are involved in the same campus project. Hong Seol looks awkward when she meets Yoo Jung again. Hong Seol, who initially thought he was a cold young man, seemed surprised when he was friendly enough to her. Maybe because the two of them had to work together for a while, she assumed that he just wanted to be nice to her. The scene then switches and shows a young man named Baek In-ho, who is going to Seoul. Arriving in Seoul, In-ho immediately visited his sister's house, Baek In-ha, because they had not seen each other for a long time. But it seems that In-ha doesn't like her brother coming to her house because her face looks annoyed when she meets him. Sure enough, not long after, the two of them got into a dispute which caused In-ha to be so irritated that she threw a knife at In-ho without hesitation. He manages to dodge the knife and avenge his sister's actions by pushing her against the wall. However, when In-ho was about to hit his sister, he remembered his childhood when their mother beat In-ha right in front of him, which greatly traumatized them. He finally relents and tells his sister not to hesitate to contact him whenever she needs help before leaving the house. The next day, In-ho visits the campus where Yoo Jung is studying and accidentally sees him alone with Hong Seol. Curious about the figure of a woman close to Yoo Jung, In-ho secretly follows Hong Seol and tries to get to know her by claiming to be Yoo Jung's friend. The next day, In-ho finally meets Yoo Jung, who doesn't seem to like In-ho's presence around him. The scene then switches to the past, where at that time, In-ho and his sister, who were still children, often received harsh treatment from their mother. Feeling sorry for In-ho and In-ha, who are often beaten by their mother, Yoo Jung's father decides to take care of and support them both financially until now. Therefore, Yoo Jung hates In-ho and his sisters because he thinks they are parasites who take advantage of his father's kindness. Turning to the present, Yoo Jung then warns In-ho not to appear in front of him because he is very sick of seeing In-ho and his sister. Shortly afterward, Yoo Jung meets Hong Seol at the park and talks about the project they are working on together. He then invites her to go to the cinema to watch a movie that accidentally has the same theme as the project they're working on together. Since it's related to college assignments, Hong Seol has no reason to refuse Yoo Jung's invitation. Long story short, Yoo Jung and Hong Seol went to the cinema to watch a movie. Afterward, they walk in the park, where Yoo Jung confesses his feelings and invites Hong Seol to date him. She was very surprised to hear that, even though she doesn't really know him yet. However, she accepts Yoo Jung's invitation to date him for some reason. News of Yoo Jung and Hong Seol dating started to spread on campus, where Hong Seol became the subject of gossip for dating one of the most popular boys. However, Yoo Jung asks Hong Seol not to think about it and carry on as usual. Day by day, Hong Seol gets used to being around Yoo Jung until they feel comfortable. She begins to spend more time with him like a happy couple. One day, when Hong Seol was buying shoes with her friend, they argued with In-ha, who wanted to buy the same shoes. In-ho, who accidentally was not far from there, immediately broke up the fight and took his sister away. That evening, Hong Seol and In-ho drink together at a roadside diner until she gets drunk. Soon enough, Yoo Jung comes there and intends to drive Hong Seol home. However, In-ho follows them, worried that Hong Seol is drunk, driven home by a cold and unfeeling man like Yoo Jung. Even though he already knows that Yoo Jung is Hong Seol's boy. Yoo Jung is fed up with In-ho, who always interferes in his affairs, then tells In-ho to get out of his sight and stay away from Hong Seol. The next day, In-ho and his sister are shocked by the news that they will no longer be financed by the Yoo Jung family. Knowing this, In-ha immediately called Yoo Jung and demanded an explanation from him. But he ignores it. Afterward, Yoo Jung gets a message from Hong Seol apologizing for being drunk last night and thanking him for dropping her off. Yoo Jung and Hong Seol then have lunch at a restaurant. Knowing that Yoo Jung and In-ho know each other, Hong Seol ventures to ask about their relationship. At first, Yoo Jung was reluctant to talk about In-ho. But because he doesn't want Hong Seol to misunderstand him, he finally reveals that In-ho and his sister are the grandchildren of a professor highly respected by Yoo Jung's late father. Because In-ho and his sister often experience violence from their mother, Yoo Jung's father takes them to his house and raises them like his own biological children. At first, Yoo Jung is very accepting of the two of them at his home and becomes close to each other like brothers and sisters. But one day, Yoo Jung finds out that his father actually asked In-ho and In-ha to watch his movements. From then on, Yoo Jung begins to distance himself from the two of them and realizes that In-ho and his sister are only using Yoo Jung's father's kindness for their own benefit. Turning to the present, when she was alone, Hong Seol was visited by a young man named Oh Young-gon, who showed a conversation between himself and Yoo Jung about her that took place 1 year ago. Hong Seol looks taken aback when she reads part of the message and grabs Young-gon's phone. Young-gon, who used to be very obsessed with Hong Seol and often stalked her, tries to destroy the happiness of Hong Seol, who is now dating Yoo Jung. Hong Seol's best friend, a girl named Jang Bora, tries to defend Hong Seol and slaps Young-gon in public. But then, Hong Seol and Bora get suspicious anonymous messages and fake news about them viral on social media. That night, Yoo Jung drove Hong Seol home as usual, but he didn't seem too concerned about the fake news about his girlfriend, which made Hong Seol a little annoyed because she thought that he didn't care about her when she was having a strange problem. Yoo Jung actually found out about the fake news. But he chooses not to worry too much about it because he is sure that the fake news will disappear by itself sooner or later. On the other hand, Hong Seol couldn't just ignore the fake news because it had tarnished her reputation and self-esteem. Therefore, she immediately goes to Young-gon because she is sure that fake news about Hong Seol and Bora must be spread by Young-gon, who wants to take revenge on them both. Hong Seol immediately confronts Young-gon with accusations of stalking and harassing. But he then retaliates by intimidating her physically and verbally. Young-gon doesn't even hesitate to push Hong Seol so that she falls down. However, just as Young-gon was about to intimidate Hong Seol further, In-ho suddenly appeared and helped her. In-ho immediately beats Young-gon so severely that he is reported to the police and thrown in prison. Yoo Jung, who just found out that In-ho saved Hong Seol, then comes to the police station to free In-ho as an expression of gratitude for saving his girlfriend. On the other hand, Yoo Jung doesn't stand still with the problems Hong Seol is facing. He secretly contacts In-ha and asks her to embarrass Young-gon in front of everyone in exchange for having her credit card reactivated so she can use it again. Without thinking any longer, she immediately agrees. The next day, In-ha goes straight to campus and pretends to be one of Young-gon's stalking and harassing victims, then humiliates Young-gon in front of everyone. A few days later, In-ho, who was walking alone on a deserted street, accidentally saw a man moving suspiciously while carrying a new brick. In-ho immediately realizes that this person is a criminal who roams around the female campus dormitory, which his friends on campus talk about a lot. He rushes after the man, but he loses track of him. On the other hand, Yoo Jung drives Hong Seol to the girls' dorm. He had time to ask how she was because she looked gloomy. However, she didn't say anything and went straight inside. While in front of the elevator, Hong Seol meets a mysterious man wearing a hat, which partially covers his face. At the same time, In-ho arrives and tells Yoo Jung that the man in the hat is the villain everyone is talking about. Yoo Jung immediately chased Hong Seol into the building. But he is too late because the man has already attacked Hong Seol and injured her. Yoo Jung tries to catch the criminal. But he managed to escape from there. Yoo Jung then helps Hong Seol and asks her to wait for him while he catches the criminal. When the thug runs out of the building, In-ho is there and they get into a fierce fight. However, the thug managed to defeat In-ho and left him lying helpless. When the criminal was about to kill In-ho, suddenly Yoo Jung came and immediately paralyzed the criminal with a fatal blow to his head. At the same time, Hong Seol did not stay silent and followed Yoo Jung. She saw with her own eyes how her boyfriend crippled the criminal with a cold face, which was quite scary for her because she didn't think that Yoo Jung, who always seemed friendly and kind, could do such a heinous thing. Long story short, after undergoing treatment at the hospital, Hong Seol decided to meet Yoo Jung at his apartment and ask him for an explanation of what had happened. At first, Yoo Jung was reluctant to tell Hong Seol, especially after she saw him viciously beating the criminal, causing a fatal wound. She tells him not to do it again because it scares her. However, when Hong Seol says she really likes Yoo Jung and will never leave him, he finally agrees to tell her everything. Yoo Jung then explains that at first, he just wanted to ask Young-gon for help in approaching Hong Seol and had absolutely no idea that Young-gon was a stalker who was obsessed with her. After that, Yoo Jung decides to approach Hong Seol without anyone's help because he doesn't want to lose the only woman he loves. Yoo Jung's efforts paid off unexpectedly, and now he can finally date the girl he loves. Hong Seol seemed surprised to hear Yoo Jung's words because she had no idea that Yoo Jung had loved her for so long, especially before he had always been cold and indifferent to her, to the point that she thought that he was just pretending when confessing his desire to date her. Hong Seol and Yoo Jung then kiss and reaffirm their love. The film ends by showing Yoo Jung, who turns out to be in love with Hong Seol 1 year ago and tries to find a way to approach her. The moral that can be learned from this movie is never hesitate to confess our feelings to others. We must romantically confess our feelings and not harm anyone so that there are no misunderstandings that actually mess up everything. Don't expect the answer, because by expressing our own feelings, we will feel better and the person we like will not misunderstand us either.